there are a lot of things happening that are not necessarily making it in like the bigger news cycles because there is a lot of news to cover, especially obviously with impeachment and whatnot going on. But I wanted to update everybody on the U.S. Space Force. Very exciting new project of shuffling chairs around the deck of a ship. So yeah,
I like the old name. It used to be called Star Wars. Back in the Reagan era, right?
Was that what they called it?
Yeah, his
It was a
Space
Star
Force,
Wars project,
the Star Wars project,
not the
yeah.
Star Wars Space Force.
Because I know
It was
back
Star
in the
Wars. There was Star Wars was real, everybody.
It was in
but
2018,
now we've got Space Force.
So that's pretty recent. 2018, when they were talking about calling it frickin' Space Corps.
Yeah.
Space Corps.
It was the thing is that it basically was a branch of the Air Force.
Army?
No, the Air Force.
Air Force?
It was
Okay.
Air Force. It was Space Command in the Air Force, and now it's getting its own designation. I mean, Trump is obviously going to do a bad job, but I'm kind of I'm kind of for it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Well, that was actually
Yeah.
what I wanted to bring up in this story. Like, okay, well, let's talk about, let's talk about it, right? Is it something that might be a step in a good direction for us? I mean,
a leap for mankind, perhaps.
What's that?
A giant leap for mankind.
A giant leap for mankind. That was exactly what I was thinking.
Okay,
Not at all
good,
what I
good,
was
good.
thinking at all.
Oh, okay, never mind.
So
I didn't say anything then.
So, we'll dive into this story because, Donald Trump was not actually the first person to think of this kind of a organization. Getting into that, what would a Space Force actually do? The new Space Force exists inside of the Department of the Air Force right now, in an arrangement similar to that of the Marine Corps and Navy, which both operate under the Department of the Navy. There's not going to be a Secretary of Space, as Space Ops Chief Raymond now holds. Who is the guy? General J. Raymond is who they put in charge of this. The law stipulates that the Space Force must be built from existing personnel in the Air Force. So again, just shuffling chairs around on the deck, and does not have the authority to hire new people. The Space Force has simply absorbed the Air Force unit that focuses on space operations, the Air Force Space Command, which was established in 1982. Its members will remain Air Force officers, but those with space-related roles space-related roles will become Space Force officers in the next year and a half. So
I want to be a Space Force officer. That's a great name.
So cool.
Yeah.
And so President Trump, just to give you another little piece of information that I meant to earlier, he did sign this legislation last month that created this military branch in the United States. So the national security community actually thinks some version of the Space Force is a good idea, according to this Atlantic article, and even long overdue. It does make sense, says space analyst Laura Seward-Forzik. She says, it does make sense that we'd be heading in that direction, considering how much more space is meaning to our military operations now. One of the things she did bring up was our satellites. And, that is something that we are going to want to think about protecting.
Yeah, that's a real relevant military asset, right? Spy satellites, also
GPS.
Yeah, we have right of disposal, right? GPS, all kinds of that's intel. That's a real actionable item. As much as I'm sure all of the members of the Space Force would like to be able to set their phasers to stun, it's mostly going to be satellites, I think.
Well, here's again, I'm not looking at this from the point of, Trump's of course going to botch this.
Of course he is.
And
there, I have an amazing
go for it.
addendum to the story, but go ahead with yours first, because it says ridiculous.
So this is the Space Force right now as it's being developed. I just care that it exists now, because what's going to happen, the way that the mechanism of all this stuff works is there's going to be a bureaucracy that's created behind it. And now that you have dedicated people running it right now, they're just like reassigning Air Force people into like a specialized division that's kind of its own organization. But that's exactly what happened with the Air Force when it was in the Air Corps in World War II. It just one thing comes out of another. So I made no secret on the show, and I want to give a shout out to Eli Riz, who also says space mining. Everyone knows my position on this, that we got to deal with climate change. That's enormously important. We have to deal with that right now.
Save the planet.
But save the planet now. But after that's done, we still will have we will still run out of resources eventually, and we have to go into space. And so if the U.S. starts doing this, China will probably start doing this. And yeah, there's tensions that are going to be raised, but they're always raised. They're always there. It's just consistent. We have satellites. We have everything that you mentioned before. So my thought is that this moves us in a direction that is advantageous to the idea of space mining, which is going to be the thing after fixing climate change. Because again, we're going to run out of minerals. Right now, we have slaves giving us minerals so we can make our cell phones. Because, again, like there's, as an example, there's a lot of gold on Earth. The problem is it's in the core of the planet. If you brought it to the surface, it would be about 6 feet deep around the entire planet. We need to go in this direction in the long term. I'm talking 50, 60 years down the line. I'm talking like I hope to see this in fruition when I'm like 70. But I like the concept. I don't like where it is now, but I do hope it evolves in a positive way, or at least is a angle to do that. I think Elon Musk is going to get there first anyway. But I would love to have it so that we don't bulldoze our mountains so that we can get copper when we can just get it in space.
Yeah, and you know, one of the big arguments, and that's not brought up in this article, is like, how are we going to pay for this? Like I said,
that's a fair point. Yeah,
it's not brought up in the article at all. I will point to that our defense spending is massive. You know, so in a sense, you know, we are paying for these ideas at the very least to be a possibility, even though we're not actually putting money into it. Everybody just thinks that we have like infinite funds for military and defense spending.
I mean, we're hitching a ride to space with the Russians, right? Like, what does it cost? $60 million a pop to put an American in space on a Russian rocket?
Well, SpaceX is I think gonna take over that very soon. But separately, I just want to give in context. Like, my thought is like, would I rather us build an F-35 or put money in the Space Force? Would I rather us bomb Iran or put money in Space Force? I look at, just to be clear, that I'm looking at it from that perspective.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I'd rather have Medicare for all.
I think that there are definitely other
Medicare for all is much more
priorities.
Yes,
and, you know, I think, like, well, I mean, what you said, Daniel, you said 30, 40 years in the future. I do think that we have some things to take care of at home, of course. And there is something to be said about travel to space, you know, eventually in the future, assuming that the human race survives that long.
I'm optimistic.
One of the other...
I'm in favor of us surviving.
I'm certainly in favor of that, but I'm not promising anything.
You heard it here first. Kira is promising you're all going to live forever.
I promise I will live forever. And then one other piece of this story that I found particularly hilarious was, of course, President Trump found a way to make like a few bucks
of course.
off of this. So
this annoys me.
I think everything is funny because I don't know how to deal with anything other than laugh at it. So
I want to know if he's tried to put his name in space yet. Is he putting his name on a satellite?
Trump space station. It's the best space station ever. It's 5
he's
stars.
He's taking the gold out of the core and putting it in space. None of this 6 feet around the core. The crust thing.
Charging people $200,000 a pop to come out.
The Trump Lunar Hotel is the most luxurious and only hotel on the moon. All my rich friends have told me it's the greatest.
It's wonderful.
Gold toilets.
Gold toilets.
So anyway, we haven't even gotten to how Trump is making money in his pathetic ways of like scheming, which in summer of 2018, the president's campaign team sent an email to supporters chock full of colorful logos for the future Space Force and invited them to vote for their favorite. One reimagined NASA's logo, while another declared that Mars awaits. After clicking, supporters were then delivered to a page seeking donations for Trump's reelection.
Oh, can I just make a point on this that I should probably make again? Because I feel like I would prefer the money go to NASA than to the Space Force. Just want to put that out there. NASA needs the funds. They get 0.5% of the budget. They can't really do anything. So let's give NASA the money instead. I think we can all agree with that.
But Daniel, don't you know they faked the moon landing?
Oh,
and it's
right.
All a conspiracy
No, never mind. You're right.
Stuff?
You're right. No, forget what I said. Put it back in the Space Force. Give it to Trump.
We need to put Trump's name on a hotel on the moon.
Hello. I thought that was the goal of this whole Space Force thing.
And I'm going to have for the regular people, a hovel on Mars because it's far away and I like the hotel on the moon. It's easy to get to, just a weekend away. Mars, 2 months, too far.
Trump is the only businessman that would build a hotel where there is nobody who lives. So, brilliant. Brilliant is what I'm saying.
Love it.
All right, let's move on with our lives, shall we? So, Paul.
It's too much chuckling.
I know. That's why I picked the story.
It's so hard
I
to
knew
take
that
Space Force seriously.
It is.
It's true. Like the more I talk about it, the less I'm like, I don't believe in what I said. Or like, as you could see, if you watch this through, you'd see the evolution of me going, I kind of don't believe in this idea. The more
that
we talk
happens
about
to me all the time, though, on air, in real
I
time.
just want us
Force.
to go to space and like like be a multi-planet species. That's it. If anything that helps us, I'm happy. But yeah, I just give it to NASA. If Elon can do it, that's fine. If NASA can do it with more money, that's good. Just let's get off here. Let's have another planet to call home. Let's have another.
Oh, you think we're going to inhabit another planet?
No, there's only two. Here's what it comes down to. There's only two possibilities for human existence. We die on Earth, or we colonize the stars. That's the only two answers that we have in the long term.
Wow, that's really bleak, Daniel.
But no, it's not. It's very exciting because if we colonize the stars, that's hella cool.
I guess so. I like
Alpha
Earth.
Centauri is only 4 light years away, relatively.